have on custom live streaming service, but I don't see, oh, never mind, there it is. Okay, we are streaming on YouTube now. Good evening, everyone. Can everyone please take a moment to update your name in Zoom and your role in the community? Translation today will be provided by Leticia. Leticia, do you want to give people instructions on how to connect to the translation? I can't hear you, but it's probably because you're on the Spanish channel, but if you can, okay, thank you. Okay, I think we were waiting for Leticia to type something out. Okay. We can go ahead and proceed. Before we start, as I did last time, I'd like to ask the teachers and staff in the building, how's it going? Since you all are there and we're not.
Do you want to start it, Evan? I'm in one classroom, but to me, I think things are going well. Same as last check-in, I think. Nothing's really changed.
I agree. I think there are still kinks being worked out with testing. But other than that, I think things are going as smooth as they can be at this time.
Yeah, speaking of testing, I really want to thank the vice principals for taking that under their wing and making sure that that is happening. It's always nice to see the notice in my kid's backpack mail, and it just makes me feel safer. And it's good to know that vaccinations for 5 and up should be coming soon. Okay, then I will go ahead and formally start. Welcome to the Peirce LSC meeting. The members of the LSC are the elected representatives of our school. The school is responsible for setting the LSC is responsible for setting the school's direction and policies and for monitoring its financial and educational programs. All participants are muted, and we will invite you to unmute during public participation. We will have 2 opportunities for public participation. Each will be 10 minutes long, and every participant may comment for up to 2 minutes per opportunity. The chat will be enabled during public participation. We ask that you save your questions for the public participation portion of the meeting and that you type stack in the chat so that we can invite you to speak in the order indicated. This meeting is being live streamed to YouTube. For those not wishing to pre-register and watch via YouTube, you may email your comments to peircelsc@gmail.com, and that email inbox will be monitored during the meeting. Should there be any disruptions during the course of the meeting manager, Mr. Lee, will use Zoom to mute and turn off the cameras of all participants while the disruptive attendee is removed. If we are unable to remove a disruptive participant, we will close the meeting and a new meeting link will be emailed out to attendees. If you do not receive a new link within 5 minutes, please email peircelsc@gmail.com where a new link will be shared with you. At the conclusion of the meeting, Ms. Amy will receive the video recording of the meeting, which will be posted to the LSC Google Drive on the Peirce website. While chat is not an official part of the meeting, it is a necessary community building tool for Peirce folks to connect with each other. Chat is the way for attendees to see each other virtually and participate together as the audience. We rely on attendees subscribing to the IB profile in their interactions, especially being inquirers, knowledgeable, principled, open-minded, caring, balanced, reflective. These are the norms for using the chat. I'm now calling the meeting to order. LSC members, please announce your name for roll call purposes.
Tremaine Mabry, parent rep.
Bill Kennedy, parent rep.
Claire Gervasi, parent rep.
Sorry, Claire. Jerry Baumgarten, teacher representative.
Evan Trad, teacher rep.
Sandra Kafarkas, non-teaching rep.
Matthew Kwame, parent rep.
Elisa Wartic, community rep.
Lori Zamey, principal.
And Aisha got kicked off. She just texted me. She's trying to reboot her computer right now. So, oh, there she is. Maybe.
Aisha, I know you were booted. We're in the middle of roll call.
Aisha Noble, parent rep.
Javier Seawright, parent rep. I think that's all of us. Is there a motion to approve the order agenda or sentiment to discuss the agenda?
I move to approve.
Move the agenda.
I think I should beat you, Claire.
I second the motion to approve the agenda.
All those in favor of approving the agenda? All those opposed? All those abstaining? Not voting? Agenda is approved. The next item on the agenda is items needing council approval. The first item under this point is minutes of the regular meeting on September 23rd, 2021. Is there any discussion on the notes that were sent out by Bill? Seeing none, does someone have a motion to approve the minutes for September 23rd?
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstaining? Not voting? Minutes are approved. The next item is minutes of the special meeting on October 25th, 2021. Is there any discussion on these minutes? Seeing none, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the October 5th minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the minutes for October 5th, 2021. All those abstaining? All those not voting? Motion passes. Bill, I think we should note that Trey didn't vote for either of the minutes. I think he was away from his computer, which is fine, Trey. Okay, moving on to the next item of the agenda, the LSC community representative vacancy. I think so we announced the vacancy at the previous LSC meeting. We had 2 candidates apply, and we will be giving them an opportunity to make a public statement to the LSC meeting, which will be followed by the opportunity for the LSC to ask questions of the candidates, and which will be followed by public participation for any members of the public who want to comment on this or any other business of the LSC. After that, we will move to closed session if we will move to closed session to discuss both the candidates. I see that one of the candidates, Byron Adams, is in attendance, but I have not seen Stephen Narsutis yet. Does somebody see Stephen in the meeting? I've just scanned the meeting attendees and I do not see Stephen. There is a phone number, 847. Would anyone object to unmuting the phone number to find out if that's Stephen? Okay, let me ask him to unmute. I've asked the phone number to unmute and they have not unmuted, so we can just go ahead and proceed with Byron's statement. And if Stephen shows up, we can give him space to speak. Byron, you can speak for up to 2 minutes. Oh, I'm sorry. Before you begin, can I ask you to let us know your pronouns so that we don't accidentally misgender you?
Thank you. He, him. And thank you for this opportunity. So everyone, my name is Byron Adams. I am an Edgewater resident. I'm a former high school teacher, and now I direct an education team at a technology company. One of the reasons I'm really interested in working with this group and at Peirce is, as a kid, I grew up kind of watching my parents struggle to find really great opportunities educationally for me and my sister because of where we lived. And that experience taught me firsthand that education equals opportunity. And so I want to serve on this LSC with the members here and support this community because I believe passionately that educational quality and equity for all kids is going to be one of the main guiding forces for the future stability of our community and of our city. So I'm not a politician. I am an active community member, love this community. I care deeply about issues that are facing Peirce, like school climate and safety and student experience, social emotional learning and equity, and many, many others. I'm the product of life-changing teachers and was led to become a teacher because of my experience in school. It saved my life. During my time in the classroom, I taught students who faced tremendous challenges at school and at home, just like me. And despite their uphill battle, my students succeeded. I know all of Peirce's kids can also achieve those same results. And I look forward to the day where my 1-year-old eventually enrolls at Peirce. So, to sum it up, I don't think there is a silver bullet for any of the issues that you all are dealing with or opportunities that are available, but there are real actions that we can take together. And so to the members of the Peirce community, as this introduction to me, especially parents, students, staff, just know that I am committed to be a dedicated advocate, a resource, a calm voice, and your friend to drive excellence for this school. And thank you for the opportunity. Hope to have your support here. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Byron. I'm just going to scan one more time for Stephen. And I'm still not seeing Stephen, so I think we can go ahead and continue on with the question portion of this agenda item. Does anybody have any questions for Byron?
Are we allowed to, I don't know if we're allowed to ask or not, or if you want to share what school you taught at and how long you were in the classroom for?
Yeah, I taught at Locke High School in Los Angeles.
And how long were you?
I taught for 3 years, US history teacher and also a college planner at the school.
Thank you for sharing.
I was not expecting you to say Locke High School in Los Angeles. My My family went to Jordan High School in Los Angeles.
Oh yeah, our neighbor.
Yeah, that's wild. Okay. Not my question though. Does anybody else have any other questions for Byron?
I have one. I'm wondering what kind of inspired you to be interested in being a community rep at Peirce in particular?
Yeah, I really want to be an engaged member of this community. My daughter is, like I said, she's one. Started looking at school options when we ended up moving to this neighborhood and saw Peirce. And so I think being an engaged member of a school that my daughter will eventually go to is just all the motivation I need personally, and then also for all of the other community members, students that are attending the school as well. I think it is one of the key aspects of a community is having a great school, and Chicago's really kind of unique in the governance model that we have LSCs, that there are these opportunities that aren't, these elected positions to boards or anything like that, but really focusing on one school in the community that you live in or that you work in or you have students in. And so I think, being able to be a resident of the city and take advantage of that engagement opportunity is another driver for me.
Any other questions for Byron? If not, I'm sorry.
I have a
Claire.
question.
Thank you.
I am very happy to meet you, Byron. I'm excited that you're a member of our community and that you'll eventually be a Peirce parent. I am wondering, you referenced equity and social emotional well-being in your candidate statement, and I was wondering can you say more about what racial equity means to you and what it means to be anti-racist?
Yeah, absolutely. So I believe strongly that opportunities in our school communities need to be equal for all students. And so what does that look like? I mean, for me as a teacher, one of the key things that I helped to drive was AP enrollment and making sure that those opportunities were available to all students. A lot of times that meant active recruitment from underrepresented groups in our school community. What that looks like, I think, for a community like Peirce is really trying to leverage how we engage family members, how we engage parents and other community members, how we make opportunities available to all students in our community as well, and actively working to do things like create environments in our school community that are anti-racist, that actually call out those sort of institutional barriers to achievement or opportunity that have been sort of ignored, right, or that kind of skirt under our notice. And I think one of the ways we can do that is just by talking about it, having deliberate and dedicated focus on it. It could mean active sessions, training. It could mean listening to folks after they have experiences within our school community. I think really frequent listening from our communities are important, and understanding what their experiences are like at all those critical touch points. And then not only looking at the aggregate experience, but diving into how does that look for specific members of our community if we break down that data. So I can get kind of nerdy about that because that kind of relates to my day job a little bit. But, I think the other component of it is social emotional learning, and kind of knowing that we're coming out, not even really coming out, we're still in a pandemic. And I really appreciated the question at the beginning of this meeting about what is it like for the teachers who are in the meeting and in the classrooms, because, we're all on Zoom and teachers are in the classroom, and just kind of knowing that this time has really made an impact for students and everyone, socially, emotionally, having critical actions that are helping to support kids is important to me. And so how does that look in my support of this type of role? It's really just being an advocate for those issues and bringing some of my experience as a teacher and kind of other roles that I've had in my career to bear, so that it can be helpful for this community.
Thank you. On that note, we're having speaking of trainings, we're having a training with Develop Capacity, which is a DEI consultant that Peirce has chosen to do some anti-racism and equity work right after this. And I didn't know if you knew about that and if you were planning on joining us.
I didn't know about that, but I would love to participate if that's an opportunity for me.
Okay, any further questions for Byron? Okay, seeing none. What the process would normally be is we would go to executive session and discuss the candidates, but seeing as we only had one candidate at the meeting, is there sentiment for closed session? Yes, Jerry?
I was just going to say, I think we should offer that opportunity in case that anyone on the council has something to share that they might not want to share in open session. I mean, just to be, fair.
Okay, that's absolutely fair.
I mean, we could get in and say, okay, we're done. We don't need this. But just to provide that space in case someone needs to make use of it.
Okay, that makes sense. So, so that Byron and the members of the public know, closed session, we will be starting another Zoom meeting. It will be recorded but not made public. And then once we are done with the closed session, we'll be returning back to this public meeting. And that's because of the technical limitations of the live streaming that we are doing. In that case, can I get a motion to move to closed session?
I move to closed session.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? Abstaining, not voting, motion passes. I will leave the meeting and make sure that the other meeting is set up. I will see you all soon.
Everyone got the email with Javi's link? Okay, everyone's leaving, so I assume yes. All right, see you all soon.
So just a point of order, I jumped the gun and we were supposed to have public participation before moving to closed session. So to remedy that, we will have a motion to move back into open session. And then prior to any vote, we will have public participation for 10 minutes. Can I have a motion to return to open session?
I move to return to open session.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? Abstaining? Not voting? Sorry, Evan, your hand went up a little late. Was that, I'm assuming that was in favor of returning to open session. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so we are back in open session and we will move on to public participation. Can we make sure the chat is on and anyone who would like to speak can type stack into the chat. Okay, I see that Nicole has typed in stack. So Nicole, you can speak for up to 2 minutes.
Hello. Hi, everybody. I just had a quick question. I understand the COVID testing is rolling out and happening. And I don't think that any testing has happened at the branch location at all. And so I was wondering if somebody could confirm that and also tell me what the plan is for testing at the branch location and if that is going to, if we can expect that anytime soon. Thank you.
Okay, I think someone will try to get back to you after the meeting. Next on stack is Gordon Hannon.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I just wanted to mention a couple of items to the LSC. And one is to thank the LSC for, in the budget preparation, prioritizing social emotional learning. And I know there's an additional counselor this year, and my son is one of them that benefits from the great work that Mr. Jackson and team does. I think all the teachers do there at Peirce. And I just wanted to thank the leadership for that commitment and encourage you to continue that kind of commitment because it is just so important. So thank you. And the other comment was really just a reflection that I had with a few parents, and there's probably nothing to really do with it. It's just simply a reflection. It's interesting how last year with remote learning, I knew absolutely everything going on in the classroom because it was happening in my living room. And that included interactions with families and kid-to-kid interaction, Google Classroom with the specifics of assignments and everything. It was a lot. In hindsight, it was quite awesome. And what's interesting, and it's really a reflection. It's not a judgment, it's a reflection. What's interesting, it feels in some ways going from complete knowledge and transparency and vulnerability to shifting to anonymity is too hard of a word, but the pendulum shifted, right? Back from being so present with everything going on in the classroom to maybe chasing information sometimes. It's just a reflection. It really is not a judgment because schooling is schooling. My last thought was, I was wondering as well, I'm sure—
Sorry, Gordon, that was 2 minutes.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Adam. Got it.
Okay. but there will be a second public participation at the end of the meeting. I'm just checking the Peirce LSC email, and I'm not seeing any public comments there, and I'm not seeing anyone else in Stack. Last call for Stack for this public participation. Okay, seeing no one on Stack, we will move on to the next point, which was the vote on filling the community representative vacancy. For expediency, I will go ahead and move Byron Adams' name into nomination for the community rep vacancy. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, I think that was Trey who seconded. All those in favor?
I think we have
Yeah.
to. I think we have to
Roll call.
go roll call. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I realized that as I said that.
Do you want me to read?
Yes, please, Bill, thank you.
Ms. Baumgarten. Your mute's on, but I think I heard you word that yes. Okay, your
Sorry.
hands are occupied.
I'm in favor. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Mr. Trad.
Yes.
I can say people's first names. I think Sandra.
Yes.
Yes. Javi.
Yes.
Matthew.
Yes.
Aisha. I can see you. Yes. Okay. Yes. Trey.
Yes.
Claire.
Yes.
Elisa.
Yes.
And myself, also yes. That's everybody. Oh, I'm sorry. Miss
So, yeah.
Amy.
Yeah. That's it.
Yeah, I abstain, and just for the record, that's just because I always abstain in these votes. It's nothing against the candidate.
I'll note that in the minutes.
Okay, with all LSC members having voted and 10 votes in favor, Byron Adams is the new community representative for the Peirce LSC. Welcome to the LSC, Byron. And welcome to the meeting. Mr. Lee, can you make Byron a co-host? Okay, that vote having been done, the next item on the agenda is the Develop Capacity Racial Healing and Reconciliation Session 1. I believe Dr. Fisher is in the meeting and has been made a co-host. Hello, Dr. Fisher.
Hello, how are you?
Doing well.
Do the two of you mind giving the bio for Dr. Peirce, myself, so the group has a sense of who we are, and then we'll get started. Thank you. And thank you for making Dr. Peirce the host as well.
I'm happy to read it.
Thank you.
Sure. Dr. Anise Fisher founded DCC Develop Capacity and the Be Free Woman with a commitment to coach individuals and teams to recognize their power and capacity for leading from love and trust versus fear and doubt. Anise often serves as a writer and speaker on topics related to race, gender, leadership, social justice, and mindset. She is the 2021 inaugural Anti-Racism Pedagogy Scholar at American University, where she coordinates faculty learning in anti-racism pedagogy and practice. She also designed and teaches exercising conscious leadership to doctoral students in the EDD program. And her DEI and leadership work expands across the country and across education, business, government, and the nonprofit sectors. Dr. Fisher recently released her first book, the power within me, the road back home to the real you. Dr. Claribel Peguero has over 20 years in higher education administration and has provided consulting services for a variety of institutions, corporations, and associations. She is an expert in setting strategy, leadership development, implementation, and administration of diversity and inclusion initiatives. She has extensive experience in organizational culture and change management and does this by identifying trends using data analytics to create sustainable metrics. Claribel is passionate about board governance. She has developed the Board Governance Innovation and Inclusion Blueprint, which includes a customized board assessment and gap analysis coaching system, vetting protocol, and the Transformational Inclusion Advantage Initiative. Dr. Fisher, Dr. Peguero, welcome.
Thank you. Peguero.
Peguero. Sorry.
No, it's okay. We wanted to just clarify. Well, Dr. Peguero and I are very excited to be with you tonight to begin an important conversation. But we want to set the foundation. The conversation around racial healing and reconciliation is something that's happening in the context of our world right now. And it is no stranger to the experiences that have happened at Peirce School, from the experiences of young people and their families to racialized Zoom bombings that you've experienced. But even within our country, we experienced the murder of George Floyd, which set, unfortunately, that murder set into a catalyst of people wanting to lean into dealing with race, dealing with xenophobia, dealing with other forms of bias and harm. And even today, as we think about what's happening in the city of Chicago and what's happening in our world, there's this growing desire not to speak truth to power, a desire to not talk about the history and to not talk about what harm has been done. And in order for us to truly be able to unify and to work in partnership with one another, where we honor everybody's humanity, is we have to be honest about what's going on. We have to be honest about the current state, which means that we have to invite everyone in. And so for us, our plan today really is to talk about, what has happened at Peirce. We'll do some foundation setting amongst us, but a lot of our time will be spent in small groups, talking about the experiences that people have had at Peirce. And in particular, we want to raise a mic to the experiences where people have been marginalized. And when we talk about harm, I want to just share two things with you. I want to share a little graphic that talks about the definition of harm. And we intentionally use the word harm because if we're going to talk about healing or reconciliation, we have to be honest about the types of harm that one can endure. And so I'm going to project the definition of harm for you. And it says physical injury or mental damage, hurt, moral injury, evil and wrong, to do or cause harm to injure, damage, or hurt. So part of what we're going to be talking about tonight is the harm that has been inflicted that involves mental damage or hurt, as well as the harm that has been done physically to some people. We want to begin with a poem called In Lakesh. Is anybody familiar with the poem In Lakesh? Mr. Kennedy? Okay. We want to start with In Lakesh because one, we want to bring into the space Luis Valdez, who is the father of the Chicano theater movement. And what was unique about Luis Valdez is he was able to think about how do we maximize the arts with the activism that was taking place in the farm workers movement. This poem is a really powerful poem. It's going to be read by Elaine Townsend-Uden, who is the executive director of Latinx Ed, which does advocacy work for Latino communities. But what's powerful about this poem is that you're going to hear it both in English and in Spanish, and we will play it on loop. This poem has been banned in some places around the country where schools and schools districts were starting to teach Mexican American studies. We're starting to teach about Latino history. And so it's been used by schools and school districts and also in activism groups to raise up awareness and to uplift the voices of our Latino community and the importance of us being able to name that their voices matter and that we should bring them into the space and that history is important to be learned. So I'm going to play the poem on loop twice so that you can hear it. And then I'm going to ask a few people. Mr. Kennedy, Aisha, we need you to help us out here. We're gonna ask people to raise their hands, but we want to hear from you. Why do you think we're starting with this poem? So listen to the words of the poem, and we're gonna ask you, why do you think we're starting with this? And we're educators by trade, which means we believe in wait time, and we're not uncomfortable with that. And we're gonna, get some audience participation here because we're not here to talk at you. This is interactive. Okay, so you ready? Y'all with me? Okay.
Now serving Latinx immigrant families through Latinx. Hi, everyone. My name is Elaine Townsend Uten. Soy Peruana. I'm Peruvian, but raised in the South, and now serving Latinx immigrant families through Latinx Ed, a nonprofit dedicated to breaking down educational barriers in North Carolina. So I am honored to be here to read to you in Lakesh, a poem by Luis Valdez. So let's do this. Tú eres mi otro yo. You are my other me. Si te hago daño a ti, if I do harm to you, me hago daño a mí mismo. I do harm to myself. Si te amo y respeto, if I love and respect you, me amo y respeto yo. I love and respect myself. Hi, everyone. My name is Elaine Townsend Uten. Soy Peruana. I'm Peruvian, but raised in the South, and now serving Latinx immigrant families through Latinx Ed, a nonprofit dedicated to breaking down educational barriers in North Carolina. So I am honored to be here to read to you in Lakesh, a poem by Luis Valdez. So let's do this. Tú eres mi otro yo. You are my other me. Si te hago daño a ti, if I do harm to you, me hago daño a mí mismo. I do harm to myself. Si te amo y respeto, if I love and respect you, me amo y respeto yo. I love and respect myself.
Okay. So here's where we have the audience participation. So why do you think Dr. Pagetto and I would start with this poem? You can use the raise hand feature. Or you can raise your physical hand. I see Kristen there. Kristen over.
Because it's about relationality. It's about how we are all part of the same community.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And if you feel like you resonate with something someone has said, I'm going to ask you to use the reaction feature, which is a thumbs up or the hand clap to let the person know that you are in community with them. Okay, this is where I need your help, Mr. Kennedy. There's some people in queue, so you can call them.
Well, I want to defer to our chair maybe to call on them.
I'm sorry, I don't know protocol. I heard you giving
Yeah.
clarification. So
Yeah.
Okay, Aisha, please. Sorry, Madam Chair. Good.
It's next up is Trey, and Javi is actually chair.
Thank you, Aisha.
No, I think it was beautifully said. It's just about relationships. It's about how we're all connected.
Thank you.
I see Greg's hand and I saw Nanette's hand earlier.
Thanks, Javier. Just to add to the reflections that folks already shared, when I was hearing the poem, it called to mind for me just the intimate connection between both like acknowledging harm and taking steps to repair harm for community members, and how that leads to sort of wholeness and healing for each member of the community who's also participating in that process, whether or not they were the person who was originally harmed or not.
Thank you. Javier, do we have any more people?
All I wanted to say was that I echo what everyone else has been saying, and I accidentally hit that button, but I agree with what has been said thus far about the poem.
Thank you, Nanette. I also see Kate Bell's hand, and I'm gonna unmute her because she's both a parent and a teacher at Peirce. So I think it's important to hear her perspective.
I don't think that makes my perspective more weighted. For me, this brings to mind like I think the increasing sense and appreciation for my own humanity when I'm able to recognize the humanity in everybody. Like if it's related, right? It's like if you can't see the full humanity in somebody else, you can't treat yourself as a full human either, and kind of vice versa.
Did we get everybody?
I believe so.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. And I want us, as we engage in the difficult conversations to come, we want you to remember what you heard to start us off, that you are my other me. If I do harm to you, I do harm to myself as we engage in this conversation. And so our goals for today is to create a space where we can honor everybody's collective humanity. We want to create a space where we're going to talk about not only what has happened in terms of racial harm, but begin to open the door for making amends. So what does it mean to repair the harm? And we hope by the end of next session, we'll begin to engage in the conversation about what does it mean to co-create a shared vision for equity and inclusion at Peirce. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Peguero to give us some norms here so that we're all on the same page about how we're going to play together in this environment.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher. She said that we are interactive, and we are. We know that it's late and you've had a long day, but we appreciate you guys hitting the reaction button, raising your hand, letting us know that you are there. So that is wonderful. I also want to enter the space letting you know that I'm a first-generation American, first-generation college. And anytime I'm asked to do anything with parents and students, I'm like, yes, because I just believe in education and the importance and really the trajectory in my life, like what it did to have such great education and great role models and mentors. And so I just want to commend you as parents that you are taking the time to sit through this meeting, which isn't comfortable at times, to have the real discussion and what you need to do to make sure to amplify your students' voice, right? So that is so important. So I just want to say that. So we're going to talk a little bit about having some norms within our community that we're setting here today, right? So this isn't easy work. We're going to try to mirror each other. So we're going to be respectful, like the poem said, making sure that we're addressing each other respectfully and that we're reflecting, right? That we are taking the time to look in the mirror. In Dominican culture, we put a mirror at the front of your house when you walk in so that we're saying to look at yourself. And if you're here to do harm, to leave, right? So it's this whole thing. And so when I think about mirrors and the importance that they play, make sure that you're thinking about that. This is a brave space and courageous space because people are going to speak up and are going to share their thoughts in this large group. And so we want to make sure that we honor that it's not easy to come forth and share your thoughts on things. We're here to learn and not to judge one another. and really show each other grace, right? And making sure that we're showing grace to everyone. Understanding that intention and impact, sometimes we intend to say something, but the impact it can have on others is something that you might not be aware of, right? And really think about confidentiality, right? What happens here, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but really what we're sharing here, we want to make sure that we're able to talk and that we're comfortable to do that, and that we don't leave with people's names. Like, let me tell you what Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so said, that we're really trying to keep it here and have the right discussion. So, you guys are brilliant people. We were going to go over like what diversity, inclusion, and equity meant. But I think, to me, the person that says it best is Verna Myers, right? She says it's like going to the party, right? Diversity is that everyone's invited to the party. Inclusion means that everyone gets to contribute to the playlist. And equity means that everybody has the opportunity to dance, right? Does everybody agree with that? Any thoughts on that? Anybody would say something different or would add something to that? I know Sandra was nodding her head. Thank you, Sandra. I told you we'll call people out. We'll get. Right? So we know that we've done some intake forms. We've read about some of the parent concerns, very honest, very authentic. So we really appreciate that. And Anise, I love, we're using Dr. Fisher, we're using the word harm because we know that harm has been inflicted here. And when we think about that, we mentioned George Floyd, and that was a visible harm and display of hate. But sometimes what we often don't think about is microaggressions, right? The things that we deal with on a constant basis. And sometimes it's everyday instances of racism, homophobia, sexism, and more, right? And it's often done by good people that just don't know that they are inflicting this harm, right? It's unconscious. And so when a microaggression happens, oftentimes we're led to think of three things, which is, did I just experience that? Am I overreacting? And then who do I tell? So that's exactly what happens when you experience a microaggression. You're like, did I just experience that? Am I overreacting? And then who do I tell? Do you feel that your students understand what that means? And do they know who they would tell if they were experiencing something? And I'm brave, you can get off mute if you'd like. You could go in the chat, you can raise your hand. The chair, Javi, I was gonna say Javier can call you out. I don't know, make sure I pronounce it correctly.
You can call me Javi.
Javi, okay, love that, Javi. Oh, Melissa, hi, Melissa.
Oh, I'd say my kids know to come to me, and I will for sure make certain that the issue is addressed as their parent. I don't know that they really know who they can go to at school.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that, Melissa. Gina?
Hi. I think for my students, they do know we've been part of the school for a very long time, and we've built these relationships with some of the adults in the building. And I feel that my kids can come to me. The issue that I have is when you're a parent and you have some of these things happen to you by some of the people that are supposed to be leaders, who do we go to? I think that, so maybe we need to revisit who our students can go to in the school and what outlet or who do parents go to?
Thank you, Gina. Well said, well said. And that's what we're going to continue to build on. So thank you. That's a great question. As parents, who do we go to? Any other hands or any? Oh, okay. Hi, Dory. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thank you. I think I wanted to just put it out there that
my children know who to go to, but I don't believe they feel comfortable bringing up issues. I think they know that there's going to be consequences in them socially. The relationship is going to suffer. And so I don't think they freely would go, even when they have things going on.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So is there a comfortable, safe space to share? Okay, those are great points to bring up. Any other hands up? All right. Oh, hi, Ashley. How are you?
I just wanted to agree with what Dory said. I think it's the same for my kids. I know it's the same for my kids because they have come to me with these types of issues. And they clearly know who they can go to, but they never choose those avenues within the school.
Thank you, Ashley. And Kate also agrees. Thank you for putting that in the chat. They're stuck in the doubt of, did that happen? And am I overreacting, right? So we know that the impact of microaggressions, there's a feeling of alienation and isolation that can happen. There's diminished confidence. It can cause some anxiety and depression. So we know that this is serious, and this is serious harm. And we have to make sure that we are aware of who we can go to, not just the students, but also parents. So that's our goal as we continue to build this community, is to really start setting our standards and what are our resources available, right? Any other thoughts on that? All right, so I'm going to pass it on to Dr. Fisher to tell us what we're going to do next.
Thank you. We're going to move into a part of our time together called Speaking My Truth. And as I think about, the importance of speaking my truth, I want to speak my truth to you. I was born and raised in Chicago and Inglewood. And then my mother, when I was 9, chose to move to the north side of the city to a school a few blocks away from you called Gowdy, which is where I attended elementary school in Chicago. And I have a memory in 4th grade. I tested into the gifted program on the south side of Chicago. And when we moved to the north side and my mom, presented the results, I watched an interaction between the teacher and the principal and my mother, in which they didn't believe that I should be in the gifted program because I tested into the program on the south side of the city. And I watched my mom argue and fight for me to be admitted into the gifted program in 4th grade. And that's a memory that has stood with me my entire life. And it's part of the memory that, led me to go into education and why I do that work. And if that memory from 9 years old, is still with me, and I'm an adult, I wonder what memories are young people having etched into their lives right now that will carry with them 20 to 30 years from now, as not a source of hope and an excitement about coming into a school building and being welcomed, but as a source of being told that you're less than and you have no place in this space. And so part of speaking my truth is to really provide some time in this space to talk, one, about harm that's been personally experienced or witnessed. And we're going to be asking 3 key questions that come from the restorative justice space. What happened? Who was harmed? What needs to happen to repair the harm? And we're going to divide this space into 2 breakout rooms. I will lead one breakout room. Dr. Peguero will lead the other breakout room so that we can have some time for us to actually engage in conversation. And we want to ask people, to the best of your ability, to share, what has happened and share it in a way not to protect the ears of other people, but to do it so that you can speak your truth, so that we hope you can get just a little bit of peace of having the mic in your hand for you to be able to share what's happening. Then the groups will identify the top things that we heard, and we're going to come together as a larger group to share those themes. So, any questions? Let me pause so that I can check for understanding.
Can I ask a question? Do you want us to think about where we may have seen or experienced harm in relation to the school, or within our own personal lives outside of the school?
So we're here to talk about the business of Peirce. So we think we will have enough rich experiences from what's happening at Peirce that we want to keep it in the context of Peirce. However, we are all lived beings in which we bring our own real lives to this. And so I might have an analogy, but again, when we talk about the mirror work, we want it to be the mirror of Peirce, and not the window of what happened 7 days ago. Okay. So we will.
Dr. Fisher, there's a few questions in the chat. Thank you, Bill Kennedy. He responded. Thank you so much for that. And then somebody asked, how can people watching on YouTube be a part of this exercise?
Yeah, so I'm not sure where the camera goes on or how the camera works on YouTube with us being able to create that space, but for us, breakouts will allow the opportunity for people to just be able to share in smaller groups, and we can actually lean in and practice deep listening with people. But I will defer to the president of the LSC and the principal. If you think we should deviate otherwise, we're able to adjust. But for us, we wanted to make some space so that, we can really tune in and listen to people, because we're going to ask you, if you can, to turn on your camera at that point as well.
Anyone on YouTube can register for the Zoom meeting and join the Zoom meeting. So if they want to participate, they can register and join.
Thank you, Javi. Okay.
You're welcome.
Claire,
I do. Sorry to interrupt. In terms of like LSC members participating, and the whole reason this is being recorded is because there are more than 3 of us in a space talking, so this needs to be an open meeting. So April's suggestion in the chat to only make one breakout room, and then this main room is the other breakout room. We just don't actually break out. That way there can still be a recording. And the LSC members should probably stay in this room. That would be my suggestion.
Can you help us to understand more behind what the dynamic is that we're experiencing here? We're just trying to get a sense of what's happening. We don't know the environment as well to be able to code for it. So if you could just help us to understand why we should keep this as a main room versus 2 breakout rooms, if people can call in. We're just seeking to learn.
We can have 3 LSC members in the breakout room that's not being recorded, because then that does not become a violation of OMA, and the rest of the LSC members can stay in this room. Dr. Fisher, to answer your question, it's a matter of the session happening within the context of an LSC meeting, and being in compliance with the Open Meetings Act.
Okay, so we just need to make sure I have 3 people in the other one. Okay, great.
And for me, I appreciate that question, Dr. Fisher. And speaking my truth, I'm just anticipating that we're part of this. Yes, part of it's OMA, but the other part of this is just kind of, I think, speaking for myself, having seen some kind of personal attacks that come as a result, that kind of this investment in perfectionism, I think it's over and above OMA compliance, because OMA compliance has been violated so many times in the past with previous LSCs, but it's become more critical once the current council was seated this past January. So that's, I think, my experience is what that is that you mentioned feeling in the room. Part of it's OMA, but at the end of the day, we're bracing for some kind of attack, some kind of threat and harassment. That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. I mean,
self-defense.
I'm sorry, Javi.
Oh, just supporting what Aisha said. It's self-defense.
Yeah, we are here to be helpful, not hurtful. So please guide us in what you think is best.
And is the self-defense that if we go into a breakout space, that nefarious behavior may occur in that space versus the main room, or the other way around?
Oh, no, not so much in this space as that we will be, that the office of the Attorney General will be sicked on us.
Got it. Okay. About doing the breakouts. Got it. Okay.
Right.
So
We're just trying.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We can go with the flow if what would make a less passive aggressive attack on you happen would be for everybody to stay in the main room. We can adjust to that. But we're going to ask, if you want to interact with us, that you turn your camera on so that we can see your face and fully engage, and that you be present with us. Of course, unless something's going on in the background, then of course, turn the camera off, do what you need to do. But if that's what's going to, provide some, protection for you all long-term, then we're happy to adjust to do that.
Ms. Amy, you had a suggestion though, that as long as there were 3 council members in the breakout rooms, that would be fine.
It seems like that to me based on the way I interpret it. So I think 3 council members could go to a breakout room and the rest could stay in the room that's being recorded.
Okay. Okay.
I volunteer to stay in the main room.
I'll stay in the main room as well.
Okay. Okay, so we need one more person. Don't we need 3 people in the main room, or just
we need actually, maybe we need to get who would like to volunteer to go to the breakout room.
I can go in the breakout.
Okay.
I'll go in the breakout.
Okay.
I can go wherever you want me to.
Yeah,
I'll do a breakout.
Put me wherever's easiest.
So Sam, I heard Aisha, Trey, and Bill say that they were going to go into the breakout room.
And Jerry said she was okay, right?
I said I'll go wherever you want me to. Doesn't matter.
So the rest of us can stay here.
Okay. Okay, so let's break out. I'll stay in the main room. Is that okay with you, Dr. Baguetto, or do you want to stay in?
Oh, yeah, let's go. I'm ready.
Okay. See you all soon. And we will need 30 minutes in the breakout room, please.
And can I also add, it will be the same discussion in both rooms. Obviously, it'll be different people in the spaces, but we're talking about the same thing. So I just want to make sure that Dory mentioned, can we switch halfway? That means you could hear different people's voices. So if that's a possibility, that makes sense too. So thank you for sharing that. All right, we are ready.
Okay, I think this is our group. Okay, so we want to give you a moment to individually reflect on these questions. So just take a moment to yourself silently to reflect on them, and then we will come together as a large group. You are thinking about a time that you've personally witnessed or experienced racial harm. The question is, what happened? Who was harmed? And what needs to happen to repair the harm? So I'll give you 5 minutes to just think
about that on your own for folks who need some time to reflect. I'll put the questions in the chat box. What happened? Who was harmed? And what needs to happen to repair the harm? And when you feel like you're ready to go, if you can use the thumbs up reaction feature so that I know that you're ready.
Dr. Fisher, for some reason, the way our meeting is set up, we don't have reactions today. So maybe if folks want to type in
the chat box.
Back in the chat.
Thank you. Thank you. I should just type done in the chat box so I'll know that you're ready. I love our ability to adjust in the moment here.
Hello, Dr. Fisher. This is Trey. I'm a parent rep on the LSC. I can start.
We're not ready yet, Trey.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we're still giving people some time. Thank you. I'm so glad you're ready to start, but I'm waiting for people to light up the chat box with done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I know that people are ready. So just type done in the chat box, and that's how I'll know that you're ready. Okay, they're coming in. Okay, looks like we got a good majority coming in. I'll wait for a few more seconds for any other that might come in. Okay. I'm going to ask us to do a quick go round. I imagine that everyone here doesn't know each other. I imagine that some of you all, there might be some new faces. So I'm gonna ask you just quickly, and I'm just gonna say the names because it'll be a lot easier. I'm going to ask you if you could just, share the name of your child, what grade they're in. So share that as a part of your introduction. And why, Claire, can you not say that? You raise your hand.
You can. I just you'll have to unmute everybody as you choose them.
Oh, perfect. This is great. So we won't hear parties in the background. Okay. So I'm just going to unmute everybody, and I'm just going to ask you to quickly introduce yourself. I know some people love to have the mic and go for hours. We need you to be 30 seconds or less. Just introduce yourself and why you are here. Yourself and why are you here? And then we will get into the sharing, and Trey will be first on the list to start with that. So I'm just gonna go just as I see you. Byron Adams, welcome. You're new to the role, so it's only befitting that we start with you. Go ahead.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Byron Adams, new to the LSC, community member, just here to listen and learn, get introduced to the community.
Okay. We're gonna go with, is it Matthew?
You got it. I'm a parent rep. I got a 5th grader and a 6th grader at Peirce. Very happy to be here.
Okay. Okay.
Did I need to say something?
Okay, Claire, just introduce yourself quickly and why are you here?
I'm Claire. I'm a parent rep on the LSC, and I'm here because I care about Peirce being an anti-racist community.
Okay, so we're gonna mix it up a little bit to make sure people's paying attention. Claire, I want you to invite in the next person.
Okay, I have the power to unmute. So could I ask Matt and Amy to introduce themselves?
Hi, everyone. We are Matt and Amy, and we have August and Eli Pryor, 2 kids at Peirce, and we are also here.
Third and first grade.
Third and first grade. And we are also here because we care about anti-racist practices in the school.
Okay, thank you. Okay, quickly, we need you to invite somebody in. This is like, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yep. Miss Bell, please. Sorry, Kate Bell.
No worries. I'm Kate Bell, she, hers. I'm a first grade teacher, and my son Lucas is in kindergarten with Miss Bensel, and I care about Peirce.
People always go on mute after they speak, like, ooh, the fire.
Oh, and now I want to hear
Don't
from
call
Gordon
anybody.
Hannon and the person in the background.
I could go. I just unmuted myself. I'm
Okay.
Kelly. It's great to see many of you. I have a 5th and a 7th grader, and I'm here because I love this community, and I also love growing myself. And these experiences help that. So thank you all in advance.
Okay.
And then I have to name someone. Shoot, I'm on my phone and I'm not. Sandra.
Good evening. I'm Sandra Farkas. I'm a special ed classroom assistant and I'm working with 3rd grade right now. And I am on the LSC as a non-teaching rep. I choose Bianca Jimenez.
Why are you here, Sandra?
I'm on the LSC for my first year. And of course, to go Peirce.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. My name is Bianca. I have a 2nd grader at Peirce now, so I'd say we're on the fairly new end. Like you, Dr. Fisher, I am also a product of CPS and actually attended Peirce for a few years when I was in grammar school. So I have a very strong and particular interest in growing the school and just being part of the community here and helping where I can. And I will pass it to Melissa.
Hello, everyone. I'm Melissa Alvarez Mangual. I have 2 children at Peirce. My son is in 2nd grade now, and my daughter's in 5th grade. I have been engaged in this racial equity and anti-racism work since the very beginning of the efforts a few years back, and I'm here in solidarity with other parents who care deeply about this and just working to affect change. And I'm going to invite Gordon to share.
Hello, I'm Gordon. This is my husband, Chip. We are a multiracial family and also same-sex parents. We've been in the neighborhood for over 20 years. We have a son in the 2nd grade, and we care very deeply about him, about his life and the life of the community. And we know that Peirce is an awesome school. We're super proud to be part of it, and we want to be part of solutions.
Thank you. Okay, Gordon, quickly invite somebody in.
Oh, sorry. Alyssa Warchick.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Alisa Wartek. I am the community rep, one of the community reps. I don't currently have kids at Peirce, but I'm here because I want Peirce to be the best school that it can be, and I want to, be part of these conversations. So, thank you. Let's see. I think Sean. I don't think we've heard from him.
Hi, my name is Sean Andrews. I have a 2nd grader and a 6th grader at Peirce, and I've also been working a lot with the Racial Equity Parents Group So I'm just here because I have an interest in improving the school. And I will. I have Aisha.
Thanks. Aisha Noble. I am a parent on the LSC at Peirce. And the reason I'm here is, in general, doing LSC work is I care deeply, having gone through school as one of a few Black students in the classroom, to make sure that our students and all students reach their potential. And I'm invested in removing barriers to that. Next, I will say, is it Bargov? Did I pronounce that correctly? I apologize if I didn't.
Yeah, you got it. Thanks, Aisha. Just to introduce everyone, I'm here with Nicole as well. Our daughter, Asha, is in the pre-K class. We are here just, we care about our daughter bringing her full self to work, to school every day, as well as all the other kids at Peirce. We care deeply about Peirce, and so we want to, engage and support all that's going on to help make sure kids can bring their full self every day to school. And I'll pick Evan.
Hi, everyone. I'm Evan Tread. I am the fourth grade diverse learner teacher and teacher rep here on the LSC. And I am here to further my anti-racist work and apply it in my classroom to make our classroom an anti-racist classroom, as well as further that among staff here at Peirce.
Cool. Okay, Evan, we have Lindsay that still needs to be invited in. We have Ann, Reagan. Do you want to have a few people?
Sure. Cecilia.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Bocanegra. I have, a fifth grade daughter at Peirce and a seventh grade daughter at Peirce. I'm here to learn and grow and hopefully use what I gain here to be a better parent leader. Who should go next? Christina.
So my little one is like screaming right now. If you can hear him, he's trying to go to sleep and someone's with him. I have a baby. I also have a first grader at Peirce and a second grader at Peirce. And I am here because there's a lot that I don't actually know about what's happening with race and equity in Peirce. I have a small group of people that I engage with frequently, and I'm really kind of interested in what the larger community has to say.
Okay. Christina has something happened in the background, so we're gonna let it go. Brian, do you want to go, Brian? Okay. Sam Lee. Nothing. Okay, anybody else would like to come in before we get into the 3 questions? Nicole Granacki, I don't think we've heard from you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Nicole Granicki. You heard from my husband, Bargov. We've got a 4-year-old in pre-K at Peirce. And I'm here because I always take any opportunity to sign up for any anti-racist workshops to learn more. And also, like everybody said, really deeply care about this community and want to support this type of work that is going on in this community. And just want to give I know a lot of people are involved with making this happen, but want to give a special shout out and thank you to Aisha for making this happen at Peirce.
Okay.
That's a help prayer.
Yes, it's okay to hand clap if we don't have the reaction feature. You can do it with your real.
Miss Amy with the funds.
Okay.
I saw Kate raising, yeah, oh, sorry.
Okay, Kate, and then I saw another person, Ashley Cross, and then we'll get started. Go ahead, Kate.
Hi, I'm Kate Polgar. I have a 5th, 2nd, and 1st grader, and I'm here because I really care about Peirce and care about the experiences that everyone's having at Peirce.
I'm Ashley Cross. I have Torin and Xavier in 5th grade and 1st grade at Peirce. And I am also a part of the racial equity group and am committed to having these conversations. So that's why I'm here.
Okay.
Did Kelly have a chance to introduce himself? I can't remember.
No, they're not on my list.
Kelly?
I did. This Kelly.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm good. Yeah, no problem.
And I think for those of you that, I think I've met everybody here, but some of you may not know that my daughter graduated from Peirce 2 years ago, which was a huge reason why I think I ended up becoming the principal at Peirce, along with having grown up in the Peirce community and Peirce having been my neighborhood school as a child.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Sammy. Okay, so Trey, we would like for you to start us off with the 3 questions, about people's personal or experiences that you've witnessed racial harm. What happened? Who was harmed? And what do you think needs to be done to repair the harm?
I think like everybody knows me, Trey, parent rep. I'm gonna kind of pull out a little bit what Aisha kind of talked about when we were trying to get into the breakout rooms. It's this new LSC, this new body has been under increased scrutiny because I think I know why, but this is the way that the way that I feel that some members of the community have come at us, at this new body. They have scrutinized, they have, just like the OMAs, yes, there's things that we have to do for violations, but you know what? A lot of other LSCs and previous LSCs got a bigger pass than this. There was never this much scrutiny, right? Maybe because it's the racial demographics of this committee, but people have come for committee members. They have created roadblocks. They have, personally to the school, like during sessions and outside on Facebook, and others have let this happen. People have stayed silent. There are some who've been brave enough to speak out. And I think when enough people have spoken out, especially, and I'm being specific to like our white allies, I think that's when it stopped, or it kind of shut the noise down. But it took a long time for that to happen. It took a long time. Now, I'm not saying that the past LSC committees and administration, that they weren't effective, they weren't good. They laid a lot of the groundwork for how we got here today. But I can tell you, they never experienced the type of scrutiny that this more diverse board has felt. And it's harmful. Not only it's harmful, it's hard to look in people's faces and go to school. And then when they get on Zoom,
So Trey, let's talk about who has been harmed. And I would like for you to be specific.
Well, I'll speak personally to myself.
And if you feel like it's racial harm, let's name it. I don't want us.
Oh, I definitely think it's racial harm.
Okay.
I definitely think it's racial harm. I know I've been harmed, and I think committee. I don't even really want to go back there because it was so public. I'm not even gonna get into it because people saw it. But and I'm okay with that now. I'm okay with that now. But the fact that it happened, not that I was surprised, but that people stayed silent and let that happen, it was hurtful. It was real hurtful.
And what do you think needs to be done to repair that harm? Because you gave us the what happened, who was harmed. I heard some names, and specifically, I also heard, it was LSC members of color and white allies and co-conspirators who were speaking up against the harm.
Some of them,
What do you
yes.
think needs to be done? What do you think needs to be done to repair the harm?
I mean, I don't think that, you know, I don't want people to feel like they're afraid to say, I don't agree with that. That's not what was happening. I want people to challenge. I want people to say, hey, here's another idea. Here's this. But what I don't want people to do is use systems and policies and procedures and hide behind and use microaggressions to hide real feelings, because you could feel the difference, right? There was, even when the white allies, I think it was Nicole at one point called it out and some others, you know, when you call it out, it was like a sigh of relief. People of color couldn't do that because it would just start, oh, you're using a race card, you're using this, you're using that. And we knew that, you know, us, people of color, parents of color, if they said something, it would just start that snowball effect in the wrong direction. But I'm so happy that we have allies that did speak up and say, you know what, this doesn't feel right. And it wasn't. And so we need more people to speak up. We need more people to speak out. We need more people not to be afraid. We need more people. If this is, you know, if it feels that way, what's that saying? If it walks like a duck, quack like, it's probably a duck, and you should say something. Stop leaving it to us, because it's too much to bear. It's too much to bear. I'm not asking you to fight for me, but I'm asking you not to stay silent for the community.
Thank you. Who would like to go next?
Can I just comment, like, kind of continuing on this topic? You know, I feel like there's times when I wish I had said more and jumped in more, and I'm here, you know, in this space to, you know, learn more about how to do that. And I feel like to answer the question of like, who's been harmed by what Trey's describing, I feel like all of us and like our children also, because if we drive these leaders of our community like off the LSC or drive them out of these leadership roles or out of these spaces, that's going to do harm to our school and to our children.
And Nicole, what do you think needs to be done to repair this harm?
Yeah, I don't know. Great question. I mean, yeah, it's at the minimum, like showing more support to our, you know, leaders of color who are speaking up to be there, so they don't always have to be the ones to say the things, to be better allies. I'm sure there's more. I don't know.
Anyone else would like to share their story?
Can I add to Nicole's idea of
So
what can be done?
I want to bring in stories and we can add, but I really want us to laser in on, I don't want us to stay on this one incident. Trey has provided a great example, but there's more experiences that has happened that involves, you know, harm, you know, taking place at the school. So I really want to hear, you know, and I want other people to hear the stories, because I don't want anyone to walk away only feeling like two things has happened, you know, in the entire Peirce community. So I hope you can understand why I am redirecting you in that way, Ashley, and invite you in to share, you know, this, if you would like to share your own story, we would love to hear it.
Okay, great. Totally understand. Thanks.
We have Gordon and Chip.
Okay. Go ahead, Gordon and Chip.
Hi, I'm Chip. You don't hear a lot about from me, but it's probably also because like Asian, like my impression with this country, I came from the Philippines, so I'm an immigrant, and my impression in this country is like, so Blacks are naturally like the most of the people of color that get the brunt of the antagonism and all that. But you probably don't hear a lot about like Asian people, as opposed to like Black people, are more invisible. Like I have a concrete example today, like at Starbucks, like there's this lady whose like leg is out there in the passageway. And I said, excuse me. And then so many times excusing back and forth. And I said, like, this is a passageway. So do you hear me? Do I have to talk loud to let you know that your leg is there and I'm walking through? And it's, hey, we're here. Hello, say hello to us. So that's my statement of that race issue. So I don't know how that translates to our family in the school, because we're all connected, and our son is Latino, so that we're finding a way, and we're hoping for like also more support from a kind of community that we chose to live in.
So I just want to ask if you follow-up questions with you, Gordon, because I don't want to lose it. I heard you name one, that there's anti-Asian hate that is existing in the space. And, you know, how do we acknowledge that that Asian folks have bias directed at them, using your own personal story from today and the invisibility that occurs. And then you also shared that you have a Latino son that's attending the school. And I wanted to ask if you or Gordon have had any experiences where you have, you know, witnessed or your son may have shared harm that they've had at Peirce. And if you don't, it's fine, just asking.
And racially, in terms of like directed towards Jose, probably no.
Okay.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
Like not consciously, not.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else who would like to share what happened, who was harmed, and what repair needs to be done? It looks like I see Javier's.
Yeah, I think that I feel anyway, I'd be irresponsible if I didn't talk about what happened during the last community rep vacancy, where we had a Latinx woman step down as community rep, and a Aisha, who's a Black woman, stepped down as community rep, and there were 3 candidates who were nominated, who applied, and one of them was a white woman, Nicole. The other 2, one was a Latinx woman and one was a South Asian man, Halesh, who's now a parent at the school. And the white woman was voted on, even though I'm trying to figure out. We thought Halesh, like people who, so I wasn't at the meeting, but when I looked into it, it seemed like a qualified South Asian man was, what ended up happening is that they had a vote where a majority of the LSC members, enough LSC members abstained so that he was denied a seat on the council, and there was no reason for why they abstained. And from the perspective as a parent and as a community rep, it seemed very racialized. And the more that I dug into it as a parent, the more it didn't make sense. And the only thing that, because the members of the LSC who abstained refused to give a reason as to why they were abstaining, like if they had voted no, because they didn't think he was qualified, that would have been one thing. But to just abstain just felt like he was being dehumanized. And the more, like when I looked into his background, he seems more qualified than me. It was just very, there was no, it just didn't make any sense. And so we were looking, like those parents who were trying to understand what happened, we were trying to give the LSC the benefit of the doubt, but the more we found out about it, the less that it made sense to us. And so it felt like somebody who, like, if this overqualified dark-skinned man can't be on the LSC, then the rest of us, how could the rest of us be qualified to be on the LSC? And I think it was, and one of the difficulties that I found was getting an acknowledgement of the impact, the racialized impact that happened, and how it was removed from the intent. So whatever intent the LSC members had for voting the way they did and for remaining silent, by not even acknowledging why they voted the way that they did, it just had an oversized racialized impact on all of the parents of colors that I knew.
And what do you think needs to be done to repair the harm that happened to that South Asian man and during the process?
So yeah, I think that it wasn't just harm to him. So the vote was about him, but the harm was to the community at large. And I think what I think to address the harm is begins with an acknowledgement of the harm. So I think that because the intent of the LSC members who abstained there wasn't a racial component to the intent, that I still haven't heard an acknowledgement that the impact was racialized and that the way that it affected members of the community, that there was harm done. So I think that an acknowledgement that, I mean, just that it was harmful to the parents of color and the members of color of the community. And I know that a lot of the former LSC members who are not on the council anymore were invited to this and they didn't show up, and that just yeah, and I don't know what to do about that. It keeps it being harmful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Javier. I just want to lift up two pieces of connective tissue here, which I'm going to do throughout us sharing the stories. Is one of the norms that, when I think about intent versus impact is, intention does not override impact, except responsibility. So I can have all the best intentions of the world not to harm somebody, but the reality is that the impact has taken place. So if I don't accept responsibility for that, essentially I've just left an open wound. And a lot of times people will say, I didn't intend to. But if I step on your foot, Javier, and I don't say I'm sorry, you could care less that I'm saying I didn't mean to step on your foot. I didn't mean to step on your foot, because the injury and the harm has already been inflicted, upon you. And so the best of intentions doesn't erase the fact that somebody is harmed. So I wanted to lift that up, that, oftentimes people stay in the intention, but never on the impact. And if we stay in the intention, then we continue to silence and marginalize the people that have been impacted. And I want to draw connective tissue to us, or I didn't watch it, but some of you watched the harm of a South Asian male, and people, remain silent in that harm. And we just had, Chip share a story about the invisibility that he felt today. And so I want also to name that, that is, what we would call anti-Asian hate. It's anti-Asian. It is an aversion to the representation of the culture, the presence, the experience in a given space. Similar to if we see this happening to a Black person, it's the aversion to anti-Blackness, the aversion to that space, that person, that representation. And we can say the same thing for our Indigenous brothers and sisters and our Latinx brothers and sisters. I just wanted to draw that connective tissue. Any other stories? Ashley Cross.
Yeah, so my kids are Black biracial, and one of them this week was in class, in the classroom, was called the N-word and was threatened with physical harm by another student. And I don't know, this is still so fresh that we're still figuring out what we want the resolution to be and what that could look like.
Might I ask you if you feel comfortable to share with us what happened when you reported that harm to your son, which is a terrible thing that I'm so sorry to hear that a young baby had to experience that.
I'm sorry, what happened when he reported it?
Yeah.
He was mostly upset by the threat of physical violence. And he told me about it and he wanted it to be kept secret. He doesn't want us to tell anyone. I think he's internalizing all of the harm. So we're trying to work through that too.
Wow. So this is the first time that, you know, the school is hearing about it because you were trying to protect your son who feared retaliation for sharing something.
Yes, yeah.
I just, I think just in hearing this, I don't know, Dr. Fisher, if this is appropriate or not, but I'm sorry that that was the experience of your child at school, because that's not what I would want any of our children to experience at anywhere, but especially not in a place that they're supposed to be, you know, loved and cared for. I would like to follow up with you to figure out how we can work through the experience that your child had.
Yeah, thank you. I will reach out.
Miss Zami, since you came off mute, would you like to share a story with us? And then I'm going to check in with my co-facilitator to see how she's doing in her room. And you can pass.
I would like to pass just because I would like to keep it open for families and staff that would like to share.
Okay. Anyone else? What has happened? Who's been harmed? What do you think needs to be done to repair the harm?
I'll share, Aisha. For me personally, we're a new family to the school still. You know, last year was all remote, but I would say voyeuristic trauma for me. Seeing the microaggressions, you know, in our meetings, experiencing them very early on, getting really nasty, condescending, tone policing emails, messaging that really kind of, I guess, was designed to, I don't know if it's meant to intimidate or question my integrity. Repeatedly, who has harmed me, and what needs to happen to repair the harm. You know, I've reflected that there's a part of me that's like, you know, for the individuals that sent those kind of messages, that's for them to reflect on, because I still care for those individuals, even though it might not be reciprocated. I see them as individuals and I respect them. I think they're talented in all these things. So to kind of come at another person that way is just, that's not how I operate. So from that perspective, you know, part of me was like, is it an amends? There needs to be some kind of acknowledgement and a conversation about where that was coming from and where do we go from here? Because for me, that's the elephant in the room going forward, because that's just not how I engage with other people ever.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So I want to just take a pause to do a pulse check. We've heard several people share harm that's been personally inflicted to them, LLC members, children? What are you feeling? And I'll just take a few people. Sean, did you want to say something? It looked like you. Okay.
Oh, I mean, I think I was just echo a lot of what's already been said about the witnessing those kinds of microaggressions against Trey, against the LSC, against Aisha, and also just seeing the way that, you know, last year parents brought an issue to the school. They brought an issue to the LSC about harm happening in part of the curriculum, and I think that there was the harm being done to the students, and I don't think that was ever necessarily addressed. But I think just hearing the way that reporting that harm and asking to have that harm acknowledged was kind of received by what seemed like the loudest members in the community, who basically kind of shouted down those reports, and then for several weeks afterwards claimed that they had been harmed because the harms were reported. And it was a sort of textbook version of what they call white fragility now. And it was a very you know, I think that there was a lot of harm done, and I don't know what to do to kind of repair it. But I think acknowledging it and actually discussing the fact that it happened is definitely an important thing to do, because I think as Nicole said earlier on, I mean, we have some of the most passionate, committed members of this community sharing with us things that are hurting them, and I don't know why the immediate response isn't one of kind of curiosity and care. So.
Okay. Any others? Thank you, Sean. Kate?
Okay, got the right Kate this time. Thank you to everybody for being brave and open. I guess this is so vulnerable, and I have a pit in my stomach, and that's probably how it should be. Talking about hard stuff. I want to share about an experience I had. What happened was I was talking with a group of teachers who all happened to be white about past teaching experiences. And basically, jokes started being made about the neighborhood that I used to teach in, how it probably wasn't safe for me to be there, how I needed to put razor wire on my car, things like that. I think I felt harm. To me, it made me feel collegially really isolated and confused. Like kind of disoriented, I would say, kind of like, am I hearing this right? And also set up this, like, I'm not sure if they're safe people to talk about building more racial equity and being anti-racist in my classroom. It doesn't sound like we're on the same page about that. So I think in that way, it has harm, like, to the kind of the wider community. And in another way that I harmed the school. I didn't speak up enough, honestly. I was too shocked. I was too chicken shit, maybe, I don't know. But I didn't say anything right away. And And so that's harmful to the community that I worked with for 10 plus years. Not being brave enough as a new teacher to speak up and say that. So yeah, it's a very confusing experience, and it played a lot into, along with the conversations about the debate program last spring, it played a lot into figuring out if we did want to send our child to Peirce and if I wanted to continue to be at Peirce. And it's because I see steps like this happening that I feel more confident, like that if we can acknowledge it. So I think what I need to see is, yes, acknowledgement, conversations, commitment to conversations like these, to kind of like reach more wholeness or healing.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to share a story before I wrap us and we're going to move into the large group again?
I can share. I've been able to see a lot of harm throughout the school community. I think one thing that maybe people don't always see is the harm that sometimes happens to staff members of color. Specifically, like some of our staff members of color that are in non-teaching or administrative positions, when they are greeted by parents who maybe question their credentials and their ability to do their job, are talked down to, upon picking up a phone or, trying to outreach to a parent regarding an incident that may have happened at recess. And I've just seen sort of that as a trend and a pattern, and where I've been looped into conversation, I've been able to address it. But there's a lot that people have not shared, every example, every detail. But I just wanted to sort of like name that for us to just also think about many of our staff members, especially when you see our staff members of color are mainly in non-teaching positions, and they are the backbone of our school in many ways. And we feel it when they're not here, and they really help us. They help us operate and help us, and they're directly working with our children.
Mm-hmm. So we've heard harm being done both at the LSC level. I'm just looking at my notes that I was taking. Thank you, Miss Amy. At the LSC level, we heard about harm happening to young people. We heard about harm happening to staff. We heard about harm happening to parents. We heard about harm happening to community members. And we heard it occurring in direct ways and indirect ways. And we heard people talk about it being kept in secret, silence, confusion on who to speak to, where to go. And also a request for people to speak up and out to show support to the leaders of color, but also to acknowledge and discuss what's actually happening. And the first step to be able to truly engage in any sort of reconciliation or any sort of healing is to acknowledge and name that it happens. And a person doesn't have to justify or provide a thesis to confirm that they have been harmed by racism, sexism, homophobia, or any of those things. So I want to, name that in the space that if what I heard from everybody here was that, you know, there was a desire to care about and love and, you know, create a space that's welcoming with Peirce is part of that is normalizing the culture that when someone shares something, shares an experience with racism or anti-Asian hate or harm or collusion is what I would call happen, you know, in your case, Kate, which means we know inequity has happened, but we choose not to do anything about it, is that, you know, it exists in the environment that a person can share it just like we did and sit with it and let it live in the space without being smothered with a PLE, which is a perfectly logical explanation for what happened. Because when someone shares harm that's been done to them, it takes a lot of courage to actually share the harm, because you have thought about all the different ways, and Dr. Piguetto talked about this, you've thought about all the different ways why you don't want to believe it's true. You don't want to believe that somebody would dehumanize you in that particular way. And so the amount of bravery and courage it takes for you all to share your stories, I thank you for sharing that. But I hope people will remember that when someone is saying that to you, it's rare that someone would make something up about their experience. And what I often say to people is, before you come in with a perfectly logical explanation, is to ask yourself in your head, why am I feeling the need to explain away what just happened to somebody? What in me is making me feel like I need to explain away what somebody has said? And that is not something you need to say verbally, but to ask yourself, why do I feel the need to do that? When someone is, you know, opting to share a part of who they are. We're going to go back into the large room to hear the themes that came out from the other spaces. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about oppression and how it works. And then, you know, if this community wants to embark on a space of reconciliation and healing, what that will take. And I'm saying if, because everyone has to opt into it. It doesn't work with two people saying that they want to do this. This is a community effort. Racism is living in Peirce because people are holding it up every day. Sexism is existing because it's being held up by actors, by people. So there has to be an agreement to want to change. So Javi, Aisha, how do we get everybody back in here to the main room? Can someone let the other people know that we're closing out?
They're closing in 57 seconds. Everybody's coming back.
Thank you. Thank you all for your courage and your bravery and sharing. Are we all back? Okay. Dr. Piguetto, can you share some themes that came out of your room? I'll share some out of my room. And then I want to talk about how oppression is living in the space, and if there is a desire for reconciliation, what that pathway would look like.
Well, Dr. Fisher, I have to start off by saying, yes, there is a desire for reconciliation from my group. I'm a proud mama myself at this moment from the experience. It wasn't easy, right? It wasn't a comfortable space all the time, but we want to, as a group, really acknowledge that there is a current state and there's issues, but we're ready to move to that future state. The trust has been broken, there has been harm, and we would like to change that. We also want to know, how do we hold people accountable for behavior that's unacceptable, and those that are working with our children, if they are doing things that we don't find acceptable as well? How do you hold people accountable? And where do our children go if something's happening, right? We want to make sure that we know what's outlined, what's available, what are the resources, and ultimately what happens if something happens to them. So we are excited to continue the conversation. And really, we are choosing the power to move forward as a group. So just very proud of all of you. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you. So I'll share some themes that came out of, our group. We had, harm that was happening to the LSC. We had South Asian folks being harmed, students being harmed, staff being harmed. A lot of it was happening and being kept secret. There was silencing that was happening, confusion on where to go, fear of retaliation. So if I share something, what's going to happen to me? And there's a desire for people to speak up and speak out, to show support for leaders of color, show support all around, and to acknowledge and discuss. And, part of what I wanted to name is that, when someone says that oppression is existing in a space, or, this is an environment that's racist, sometimes people say, well, what do you mean? Like, why is oppression existing? Or I don't believe it's happening. I don't see it. And one of the things that, was shared in our group is that, when someone comes and speaks about being harmed, it takes an immense amount of courage for that to happen. And, we shouldn't try to explain away what has happened to somebody. And if your first inkling is to do what's considered a perfectly logical explanation, let me explain away, you should ask yourself, what is it about me that's making me feel like I need to explain away someone sharing their story and sharing a part of who they are? And, when people say that oppression is, in a space, what does that mean? It's, that there's a system of advantage and disadvantage happening in a space. And it's happening in which actors at all different levels are participating in that, whether it's racism, classism, sexism. But also there's a reward system that's built into that. So and I'm just going to talk about race. So the closer in proximity you are to whiteness or behaving in white cultural norms, the benefits are received. The further away from that you are, then you are expected to conform, which means that your behavior begins to get policed. How you communicate becomes policed. How you show up in a space becomes policed. And then what also happens is that in order for that system to be maintained, people get punished for disrupting it, which means you might be bullied, outcasted, or retaliation may exist in a space. And all this can be happening in a variety of different ways, individually, one-on-one. It could happen in the norms of a place. So what we heard a lot in our group was just silence and complicity when it happened. That means a norm has been set that, like, you see something, you don't say something. And then the third way is the policies and the processes that happen in a space. So if there's no clear accountability for what happens when you harm someone, or no clear reporting channel, or action taken when it's actually reported, then that's how racism, sexism, xenophobia continues to live in a system. And so for us to move to the next part of our conversation, which is, what could healing and reconciliation look like, is that honesty has to be a part of that conversation. A willingness to, one, realize that nobody is perfect, but that there exhibits a courage for people to admit their mistakes. Because honesty is love manifesting itself on the pathway to reconciliation. And, oftentimes in our practice, we talk about 4 things that people should think about if you want to raise your consciousness in any given moment. If you don't remember anything we say here tonight, we want you to think about these 4 things. Number 1 is choice. Everybody here gets to choose how you're going to use your power in this situation. You can choose whether or not you're going to advance what Dr. Peguero says people want to happen, which is to begin to heal and repair. You can choose to use your power to go down that pathway, or you can choose to use your power to sustain the current status quo. But ultimately, you always have a choice in a given matter to advance anti-racism and equity or to stifle it. But we always have a choice. We have power and choice in every situation. You get to choose however you want to use it. But when you make a choice, then that requires you to slow down and be present, to pay attention to what's actually going on in a given space. So that when a dynamic is happening, when racism is happening, harm is happening, that you're actually slowing down to pay attention to notice what's happening in any given space. But it's not enough just to notice. We have to begin to go a little bit deeper to understand what is going on, which is to deepen your own self-awareness, not only what's happening to you, but what's happening in a given environment. And then there has to be a level of intentionality, which is you have to decide, how you want to use your power in that moment, whether it's to speak up, whether it's to say when you notice silence has happened at the administration level, to keep the fire lit until justice actually is served. But choice is always essential and is at the first step. Then you got to pay attention to what's going on, be aware of what's happening to you and other people, and then intentionally do something. So I'm going to pause. Dr. Peguero, do you have anything? I do want to invite some voices into the space as well before we close with talking about what does racial reconciliation require?
No, I just, one of my favorite quotes is real courage is moving forward when the outcome is uncertain. So I want to thank people for showing that level of courage already. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Is there anybody who would like to share in this larger space that didn't get the opportunity to share before we move into what it would require for reconciliation? Anything that you want to share based on the experience that you've had either in small group or in large group? And you can raise your hand and we'll have Javier help us with the hands. Kelly, I see you highlighted. I don't know if that means you want to say something or Kelly Fomar. Okay.
Gordon has his hand up.
Okay. Thank you, Gordon.
Thank you. This is going to be imperfect, and I kind of, so it'll be imperfect to the team. But what I'm thinking about, and I'm thinking through the frame and the lens of a white male. And when there's discussion about how we oftentimes excuse behaviors, one of the things that went through my mind is just like, wow, I am part of so many conversations that, like Miss Bell kind of got stuck in. And over the years realized, like Miss Bell, it is so disorienting. And even at my age, I'm still figuring out, what do I do with it? But I know that I want to do something with it, and it's it just has to change. And to bring it home personal, like when Chip and I have been in a relationship for over 20 years, and I still sometimes discount his experience in terms of how he just experienced even like something as simple as this morning. And so I was linking it, and again, this is all imperfect, but I was linking it about my guess is my brothers and sisters of color want and need reconciliation. I just wonder, just to say it as brutally honest, how many of my white brothers and sisters really want reconciliation, but rather just kind of want to stay where they're at? And that's so deeply disconcerting and sad to me, because my sense is a lot of us just want to stay. A lot of us who look like me, we don't want to change.
Mm-hmm. So this has been laid in the space. Gordon has shared, thank you. In his sharing, it sounded like he had a question. Am I correct, Gordon? At the end of your comment, he's wondering about reconciliation from his white counterparts.
As Gordon was speaking, I was thinking about Dr. King's letter from a Birmingham jail, where he talks about the white moderate being one of the, biggest sort of problems in terms of not speaking up during times where there was calls for direct action. And I think about that and how do we sit comfortably. I'm a white appearing woman. I don't identify as white, but people see me as a white woman. And so I'm constantly thinking about that call to direct action and knowing and identifying when is there a need for those of us who have experienced the world with white flesh, different from, students, families of color. My own child is a child of color. And so how do we see, I think the theme that I'm hearing a lot tonight and something I've continued to reflect on is, where do we see these experiences and how do we continue to insert ourselves to interrupt it so that we don't make these spaces as sort of safe for us to just passively allow injustice to continue to happen. And I'm committed to continuing to think about my role and where I stand within the work and understanding the position of power that comes with being the school principal. And there's a lot of learning that I'm still doing. And so I'm willing to dig in and willing to navigate a path forward. But sometimes I need help and I need people to call me out and say, hey, you need to really think about this. You were silent and that wasn't the best approach. So I appreciate people sharing, being vulnerable, continuing to surface experiences that have been heard repeatedly over the last year and a half. And it's clear that there's still a need for reconciliation. The fact that those things are still here, they're still present, they're still very real. It's clear to me that there has not been a feeling of reconciliation and that people have been acknowledged, heard, and that we're truly trying to move forward. So there's a lot of repair, but I'm I'm here and I'm committed to doing the best that I possibly can with the tools that I have.
Dory, I think your hand is up, and then we'll go to Javier.
Sorry about that. It was not letting me unmute. So I wanted to really appreciate Gordon's comment, because it is absolutely the thing that for me as a parent in the racial and equity parent group, really wonder a lot how many of fellow parents really want reconciliation, but how many really want to work and make this community inclusive. And the reason I say that is that even within the parent group that has 144 members, email list, every single time we send a message with a call for action, a request for people to show up, we get the same 20 people showing up. Where is the 120 that signed up, committed to this work? I appreciate Principal Zami's saying that she's putting herself there and welcomes sort of the people who would light the fires for her. And I absolutely take on that as a yes, please. I am happy to continue being sort of the thorn on your side. I know you may not see that, but I do want to ask of the white people in this space right now, how many of you are truly ready for reconciliation, not just this meeting and the next one and disappearing, but doing the work, talking to your fellow parents and showing up when it matters, not being silent every single time and allowing the 20 people to be the voices over and over. So I was wondering that, so I appreciate Gordon for putting that out.
Okay. We had Dory's hand was up, so I'm lowering her hand. Then it looks like we had Javier's hand, and then is there another hand? Somebody see bright. This list is moving so quickly. I'm trying to keep up. I need whoever the list manager is to help us out. Okay. Okay, Javier. Okay.
I also just wanted to thank Gordon for speaking up, and I think that's something that our white allies need to really grapple with. One of the most painful things that I learned this year came out of the ACE discussion, where you had parents and students and teachers conveying that harm was done. And in our breakout session, I talked about harm that wasn't acknowledged, but this was an instance where harm was acknowledged and the decision was made to not care. So there's a saying, we're all for racial equity, but we're all for racial equity until there's something that benefits me personally, that benefits my child. So because this program was important for my child, I was willing to dehumanize children and dehumanize parents. And that was especially harmful because it wasn't ignorance, it was a straight acknowledgement of the harm that was done. And it was saying that we don't care because we benefit from it. And I think that that was one example, but I think that this happens every day. And I think that, anyway, so yes, there is a commitment to speak up because it is the same 20 people again and again. And because they're the loudest and the bravest, they are dismissed easily. It's just so-and-so being so-and-so again. And and people don't believe that there are more than them behind him or her.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Javier. Who is the other hand that's raised?
It's Claire now.
It's me.
Yep.
Also, so has her hand raised also.
Who has their hand raised?
Elisa, would you like to go first, Elisa?
I can. I just wanted to say, as the non-parent rep, sometimes I feel like it's my job to listen to what the parents and the community has to say, because I don't have children at this school, but I also think that sometimes that is a really easy excuse for me to say, well, I shouldn't be the one to speak up because it's not my kids that are experiencing this. And so for that, I do apologize that for using that excuse in my head, that I don't have to be the one to say something. But with a lot of these, the incidents that have been talked about, have really changed my perspective or changed my opinion of what Peirce is. I have a daughter who's in CPS, who's a second grader, and she's not a Peirce student. And for the first 2 years of her education, I really questioned my decision to not send her to Peirce, because it's a neighborhood school. I know a lot of parents there. It's a really great school. And some of the discussions that have been had, or some of the way teachers have talked to parents, the way that student concerns have been dismissed, have made me grateful that I didn't have a parent, that I didn't have a student here. And I don't like feeling that way, because I do believe in neighborhood schools. I do believe in this. And this conversation that tonight has made me really, really feel like I haven't been doing what I needed to do. Whether or not I have a student here, it's part of my community, and whether or not it's my kid, I want to put in the work. I want to do what I can to be a voice. Maybe that makes it easier for me to speak and say, I don't have a kid here, so I don't really, I have more freedom to say, hey, this is wrong, or this should, or, this shouldn't be the way that we, that we address student concerns. So yeah, that's all.
Is there somebody else in the queue before I share? I don't want to make sure we don't forget anybody.
I was just going to say one thing briefly. I just wanted to kind of echo what various folks have said, especially what Javi was talking about spoke to me in terms of, when it's the same, well, and Dory mentioned this too, when it's the same 20 people who show up every time that those voices get dismissed. It's like, oh, that's just so-and-so on their soapbox. And I have been really, at times, really pleasantly surprised by some of the parents in the Peirce community who have used their social capital as one of those people who aren't always talking about it, like who have spoken up in moments that I didn't think they would, about inequity happening in various aspects at Peirce. And I have also been super disheartened by people who have social capital who are unwilling to use that for equity purposes. That has happened several times. I've witnessed, like, I've explicitly asked someone, like, can you do this? And they're like, I don't want to like get in that fight, and I think now is the moment. Yesterday was the moment. Anytime is a good time for the white people. I'm talking to white people, to use their social capital in the Peirce community to start having these conversations in love, not call outs and takedowns, but like when you see something, say something. Like, we all know when people are on their BS, you know, and like, you know it, white people, you're protecting it all the time, right? We're protecting it all the time. That's why racism happens at Peirce every day. And again, it's not about call outs or takedowns, and it's not about saying the perfect thing. It's just about speaking straight to somebody that you have a relationship with and using that relationship to bring someone into, you know, call them gently in and not call them out. So that's all. I have my 2 cents, and thank you all for all of your words and your presence. It means a lot to me.
Okay. Madam President, and then I have a few things to say to transition us.
That's not me, but.
Oh, you were the president, Aisha.
Hobby's the chair now. He was nominated and accepted in July. Yeah, but thank you.
You could tell, this is how long it took for us to get in front of you. FYI, I don't even know who the chair is at this point.
Thank you for your patience there and all of that, though. I was thinking about the shares, you know, and, you know, other comments about, you know, I really did as a family, and I did, you know, parents constantly were kind of thanking me for being chair or just being on the LSC and all of that. And I echo the calls for, like, we need people to show up, you know, and not wait for people of color to do the heavy lifting. And also, you know, as much as we're having these really difficult conversations, and they are hard, we can't run away from racism, right? It's not just in the Peirce community. It's at other schools too. It's everywhere. So, you know, I even caught myself sometimes like, oh, is this the right school? Is this right? The fact that we're having the conversation, there's so many other schools that are not. They're in La La Land or something. But when I hear glimmers of what's going on at other schools, I'm so thankful that this is hard, but we're having the conversation. And that's what grownups are supposed to do. And you know, I distinctly recall having that Zoom bomb experience, whatever, a year ago. And the only thing I could think to say was, you know, this was directed towards, you know, Black parents. And the first thing I could think to say was, we're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. So I'll end with that.
Mic drop. Thank you for all the work. I just want to, you know, Aisha and Clara, the first people that I interacted with in February, I think, or January. I can't remember how long, who really vetted and worked very hard January to get here. It's been a 10-month process. So thank you all both for your ongoing efforts and principles on me to get through all of the bureaucratic red tape for us to get in front of you today. So thank you to the three of you. I want to lift up a few things. Number one, everybody has power. I don't believe anybody is existing without power. Why? Like, you have an individual power. You get to choose how you want to show up in any given space. So nobody here is powerless. Are there power dynamics? Yes. Meaning there's positional authority here. There's the chairs that are here. There's the principal. But in terms of what you can individually do, everyone has power to do something. The second thing I like to name in these spaces is people often say, I don't know what to say. It may not be perfect. I don't know what to do. But I like to give this antidote. If I am with you and we're with somebody that you care about, and someone comes up to do something to harm somebody that you care about, what's your normal reaction? If I were to come and do something to verbally harm a person or physically harm someone that you care about, you're not going to call the DEI officer. You're not going to convene a committee. You're not going to read how to be an anti-racist. You're going to do what's natural to your spirit, which is to intervene, which is something in front of me has happened and it doesn't feel right. So therefore, I'm going to say something. Now, some people may say a few choice words and some people may respond in other ways, but our natural instinct is when we see something or someone that has harmed us, harmed someone that's near to us, our initial reaction is to say something. What are you doing? This doesn't make any sense. I don't understand. These are all, natural things that we would say, naturally. So if we're in an environment and you're witnessing something in your spirit, and I believe that we know when something is wrong, even folks who are in denial, the truth resonates with what's inside of your body. You feel a little bit like, this isn't okay. I've never met anybody who has said, you didn't disrupt that racist act the right way. I'm mad at you. And if you've seen it, tell us, because if you've seen it, I don't know. Dr. Paghetto and I have never seen anybody yell at someone because they did not interrupt harm in a certain way. So we're trying to boil it down to the base level. In a few, next month when we come back, like we're going to get into the heart of this, setting norms for the Peirce community, talking about specific strategies for disrupting. What does it look like to co-create a community together? But if you don't trust yourself to use your power, everything that we do will not be taken into consideration when the moment rises. Meaning that most of us are not sitting here never having been engaged in some conversation around racism, sexism, or harm. And so it's not that we don't know what to do, which is to say something. It is that we are making a choice to use our power not to. So I want to boil it down to the basic thing. What if this was your aunt? What if this was your son? What if this was your daughter? What if this was your grandmother? What if this was your cousin? What if this was your aunt? You would want the other person to intervene for that family member. You wouldn't want them to vacillate between left and right. You would want them to say something because somebody near and dear to you was being harmed. So we're gonna issue this challenge. If you're a bias towards listener, to move towards action. Because listening is great, you should hear, but if you only hear and never act, then we don't begin to take away the threads. I dropped an article in the chat box that I would love for you all to take a chance to read. It's called Shifting Our Consciousness Towards Racial Equity. For those people who feel like they need something black and white in writing, tangible for you, I encourage you to read that because in it, I talk a lot about what we've shared here tonight, but the first step towards healing and reconciliation is an acknowledgement of what's been said, and then to move to a place of not just being a bystander, but to someone that's intervening and to be willing to speak the truth to power. And in that, you will find 4 different pathways. You will find a pathway for if you are the person that's been harmed, if you are the bystander, what you can do, and if you are the perpetrator of the harm, you can be redeemed. We all can be redeemed. I don't believe people wake up in the morning wanting to harm folks. We've been socialized, and that's what's leading us to do that. We don't believe people are inherently trying to do harm and evil to people, which means that there's a way for you to go back and to repair that harm. So there's a pathway for everyone who, falls along that spectrum, and we'll introduce some of that, later. So we hope that you join us at the next session to go deep, where we will be working to talk about what norms would look like. And we will be asking for some agreements of those norms and talking about what are the consequences when those norms are not being upheld, because you can say something, but if you don't have an accountability tool, then it'll go out the window. And then at the end, we're gonna ask for a smaller group of people to come together to go through a more personalized training with Dr. Paghetto and I on what would it mean to actually lead for equity in the Peirce space. So that's the journey that you're going on. So I leave you with this. You have power and choice in every situation. It is up to you to decide how you're going to use that power. Dr. Paghetto, do you have anything before we close out?
I was just looking for my heart emoji. Very, very well said.
Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you in November.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Peguero.
Thank you. The LSC meeting still continues, so I know we have to follow the agenda. That seems like a good stopping point for, let me find the agenda again. So the next item on the agenda is public participation. If you would like to participate, comment, or ask a question, please type stack into the chat now, and I will calling you in order. Okay, not seeing anyone stacking. I'm just going to check the Peirce LSC email real quick. I don't see any emails. So, oh, Nicole Granicki stacked. Nicole, we were so close. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody who put this event together. I know there were a lot of people involved. Ms. Amy made it happen with the money, and the LSC made it happen with the funding for this. And I think this was just fantastic. And of course, a special shout out to Aisha, who this would not have happened without, and to Claire's major contributions as well. So just wanted to put that out there on the record, and just to all of our amazing leaders in the Peirce community. Want to also shout out Dory too for everything that she does.
I'm going to shout out to the LSC and say thank you, and thanks to the selection committee, which composed myself, Mr. Trad, and Bill Kennedy, and Claire, to help with the selection process and recommendations. So thanks, guys, for that.
As an LSC member, Aisha doesn't need a stack. She has a voice in this meeting, and she's responding to the public comment, which is allowed by our bylaws. But yes, also thank you, Madam President, for all the work that you did. Is there anyone else on stack? Seeing nobody, final item on the agenda is the motion to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Thank you all for attending. Hopefully we'll see you next month.
See you Saturday.